Welcome back to Faces and Places across the United States. This week, Sandra is talking to our guest, Katrina, in New Orleans. Welcome back, Sandra.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our web chat, Faces and Places across the United States. My name is Sandra, and I'll be your host today. Today, I'll be talking to our guest, Katrina. Hi, Katrina.
Hi, everyone. How are you today?
Oh, we are doing really well. We're happy to have you here in our American English at State Facebook page. We are delighted that you have joined us for this web chat. Before we begin, I would like to ask our audience to share with us where they are joining us from today. Please let us know in the comments box. Katrina, thanks again for being here today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from?
Sure. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, where you see the first arrow at the top. And then in 2001, I moved to New Orleans, Louisiana, and that's where I am right now, coming from New Orleans.
Oh, very nice. Can you tell us a little bit about the weather in New Orleans this morning?
Sure. Usually it's very, very hot and humid, but now that it's fall, it's starting to get a little bit cooler. But unlike the rest of the United States, in the South, it doesn't get very cold in the winter.
So it's nice and warm for most of the year. So New Orleans and Louisiana is known as the Pelican State. Could you tell us why Louisiana is called the Pelican State?
Sure. Well, Louisiana is surrounded by water. There's rivers and large lakes and swamp water. So it's like half land, half water. And so we have these large birds, pelicans everywhere. Just yesterday, I was at the lake and I saw pelicans swooping into the water and getting fish with these large beaks you see.
That was really cool. They look really, really cool. So I want to tell you that we have people watching you from all over the world. We have Asma Bibi saying hello from Pakistan. We have Pamela Rojas saying hello from Mexico. We have Abhijanit Singh saying hello from India. We have Priscilla saying hello from Costa Rica. We have Nadir saying hello from Iraq. We have Najar saying hello from Morocco. We also have Negazan Oso saying hello from Cote d'Ivoire. We have Apanub saying hello from Egypt. Sehim saying hello from Tunisia. And Yanda saying hello from South Africa, just to name a few. We have people, yeah, people are tuning in to watch this episode, and we're very happy to have them here. So Katrina, you shared some pictures with me of a very unique city, New Orleans. And today we want to talk about food, but before we talk about food, can you tell us a little bit about the history of New Orleans?
Sure. So New Orleans has kind of a unique history in the United States. First, it was owned by the French, and then it changed hands and was ruled by the Spanish, and then it was French again, and then it became part of the United States. Of course, before the French and Spanish came, there were people who lived in New Orleans, indigenous people. So that big mix of culture from European and West Africa, from slaves, the Native Americans, and people from all over the world in the Caribbean came to New Orleans, and that's why the food is so good.
Before we talk about food, you share some pictures that we have here, because not only New Orleans is so rich with history and culture, but also nature. Can you tell us a little bit about these pictures?
Sure. Well, you can see in the first picture, we have the Mississippi River. And so New Orleans was one of the biggest ports in the Gulf of Mexico, or the biggest port in the Gulf of Mexico in the 1800s, which is what made it such a vibrant and important city. And then in the second picture here, you can't see the entire tree because it's too large, This is a live oak tree, and they live to be about 600 years old. And this one, I think, is around 300 years old, and it's enormous. You can't tell from the picture, but it is really, really big. And in New Orleans, they call this tree the tree of life, because everyone knows it because it's so big. And then the last picture we have here is where I went last weekend to the swamps. This is called Jean Lafitte Swamp. It's just outside of New Orleans. There's swamps surrounding all of New Orleans, and the swamp is kind of like a forest, but the land is very muddy, and it's like a mixture of land and water. And I think somewhere you'll see another picture that I took when we were in the swamps of a pretty big alligator that we walked right by.
Yeah, I think our next slide has that picture. Let's see if we can get to that one. There you go.
Yes.
And yeah, so you took that picture?
Yes.
Wow. And can you tell us about the other two pictures in this slide?
Sure. So you see this boat here. This is like a traditional boat. They don't use these anymore, but this is for tourists or people visiting who want to take a little bit of a ride on the Mississippi River. And the Mississippi is a really large river, and it's very important in the United States for shipping goods. There's lots of shipping boats that stop in New Orleans, and they come from many different countries. And then the second picture here is a mural, and it's of a jazz band. And jazz is very, very important and popular in New Orleans. And if you didn't know, jazz is from New Orleans, so it was born in New Orleans. And jazz came from the mixing of Latin American music, European music, West African music, and using more European instruments, but with rhythms and sounds from many different places. And then jazz kind of became so popular in New Orleans, it moved to different places in the United States, like Chicago and New York and all over Latin America.
Wow, so not only beautiful history, beautiful nature, but also amazing music that has really been popular. And now it's popular in many, many different countries. Thank you for sharing those stories. So we asked our followers if they had any questions for you, and they did. So we have some of those questions here. So we have, let's see. We have Javier Perez asking what is the most popular food in New Orleans. So we're going to be talking about that. We also have Karima saying beignets, but we wonder if you bake them as they do in her country. And we also have Magdali Mesa saying, what's your favorite food to eat in New Orleans and your favorite place to get it? So we have those questions that we'll ask Katrina. And we have a few more comments. So we have Moe Moe saying, I like rice snacks, rice and boiled beans. I wonder if that's something similar to what you're gonna share with us. And also Karima shared with us the recipe of how they make beignets. So let's see.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, so there is an important carnival called Mardi Gras, and I wanted to ask you about that first. So what are some of the main foods that people eat during that carnival?
So during Carnival, it's a season and it's very long, but it starts on January 6th, and January 6th is called King's Day. You might celebrate it in your country, anyone who's watching. But on King's Day, we start to eat king cake, and we eat it all throughout Carnival season. And so king cake is really good in my opinion. And there's different flavors. I think the most traditional flavor would be cinnamon. I think this one that you're looking at is cinnamon, but you can also have like cream cheese or strawberry or many flavors. And it is usually eaten with family or friends during Carnival, but also if you have a job in an office, people will bring it to your work. And the great thing about it is there's a little plastic baby inside of the king cake. And so if you are the person who gets the piece with the plastic baby, you can't eat it. It's plastic. You have to be very careful you don't eat it. But you are the king for the day or the queen for the day. And they usually have like a little crown in the king cake. So you can wear the crown. But really, it means that you have to buy the next king cake. So it's actually very unhealthy because everyone's buying king cakes all the time. And so you eat it like all the time during Carnival season.
Can you tell us a little bit about how food is connected to the culture of New Orleans?
Sure. I mean, people in New Orleans love to eat food. They like to cook food. They like to have big parties with their friends. I think we'll have a picture later on of crawfish, and you'll see what that looks like. But people will have big crawfish boils, and they gather their family and friends to eat together. Also, people in New Orleans love coffee. So there's many cafes where people like to sit and talk and meet people and drink coffee, or sometimes traditionally we drink cafe Olay, which is hot milk with coffee, very strong coffee.
Wow. I know that one of the most traditional foods in New Orleans is gumbo. Can you
Yeah.
describe it for us, please? And I think we have a picture of gumbo as well.
Sure. Yeah. Like you can see here, it's kind of like a soup, and we eat it with rice on the side. There's many types of gumbo. You can get seafood gumbo with shrimp in it, or you can get sausage gumbo or chicken gumbo, or you can get a mixture of all different things. Or you can also just get vegetarian gumbo, which I like. But gumbo is actually a word, a West African word for okra. And you always find okra in gumbo. It's a very important ingredient in the dish. And so this soup, gumbo, is representative of all of the places people came from in New Orleans. They call it like a melting pot dish, which it comes from West Africa and the Caribbean and Europe. And it's very, very popular.
And I can see that, and it's definitely, like you say, a melting pot of different things. So if you're just joining us, we are talking to Katrina, who is currently in New Orleans, Louisiana, and she's talking to us about some traditional food of this beautiful city. So we also have another one that is very popular, another special dish called Poboy. Can you describe it for us, please?
Sure. I just went out to have Poboys yesterday. So Poboys, or also sometimes people call them poor boys, because about 100 years ago during the Great Depression, people ate them because they would sell them cheap from restaurants. But nowadays they're big sandwiches served on this special French bread you can only find in New Orleans. And there's many different types of po' boy sandwiches. I think the most popular po' boy sandwiches are fried shrimp, which this picture I think is fried shrimp, roast beef and gravy or meat sauce, oysters, fried oysters. Do you like oysters, Sandra?
I do like oysters. Yes, I do.
I don't want to eat oysters.
I don't eat them often, but I do like them.
Hot sausage And then on the po' boy sandwich, like you can see here, they put lettuce and pickles and tomatoes and mayonnaise.
So I have another question for you. A two-part question. The first part is, what do you miss the most when you're away from home? And so what do you cook to make you feel like you're home?
Sure, this might not seem like a typical New Orleans food, but I think that the thing I miss most when I didn't live in New Orleans was the Vietnamese food, because in New Orleans, there is a very large Vietnamese community. There's also a very large Honduran community. And so there's a lot of Vietnamese restaurants in New Orleans, and everyone here loves Vietnamese food. And it's probably my favorite, one of my favorite foods here. And I try to cook it sometimes. Maybe I'm not that good at cooking Vietnamese food, but I really love it.
And one of our viewers had that question before too. What is your favorite dish or food that you can cook at home?
Well, I mean, it's difficult to say, but I think my favorite is red beans and rice, which is a very traditional dish in New Orleans. People usually make it on Mondays because traditionally Monday was the day that people washed their clothes. And so you could just put this on the pot and boil it, and you don't have to really look at it. A lot of times people eat sausage with it on the side. And I made this, or my husband made this dish actually, this picture that you're looking at, from my recipe, but usually I make it, but he made this one and it was really, really good. It's a little bit spicy if you like spicy food, but you don't have to make it spicy. And you see in the back of this picture is a bottle of hot sauce. So everyone in New Orleans puts hot sauce on top of their food, and I think you need to put hot sauce on red beans and rice.
To make it very spicy.
Yes.
Okay, so I have one more question, and then we have some questions from our audience members. So what are some popular places to eat in New Orleans? Can you tell us a little bit about, you mentioned two special places?
So there's so many famous restaurants in New Orleans. It's difficult to pick, but I was thinking about a very famous restaurant that was important to the community called Dukey Chase. And it has hosted many presidents like Barack Obama or famous civil rights leaders like Martin Luther King. And the cuisine is called Creole, which is a mixture of European and African American food. And they serve things like gumbo and seafood dishes.
Wow, and then I think the last picture that we have here is something that you mentioned earlier from the coffee place, a famous coffee place. Can you tell us about it?
Yes, so like I said, everyone in New Orleans loves coffee. You can see in this picture a milky coffee. We call it Cafe Olay. I'm sure some of you have heard the term Cafe Olay. It means coffee with milk. And these are called beignets. So I know that somebody was mentioning that they made beignets. Well, we don't bake them, we fry them. So they're not very healthy, but they are delicious. And you put a lot of powdered sugar on top. So you can see in this picture, there's lots and lots of sugar on top, which if you eat beignets, you get powdered sugar all over you. But they're really delicious, especially with coffee.
Wow, that looks really good, and it's making me hungry now. We only have a few more minutes left. We have already come to almost the end of our session, but we have Tatiana Camara saying she knows that it's very famous. They love the city of New Orleans. We have Mira P saying if you have been to Chiapas before, because they kind of recognize you if you had done a
Yes.
workshop there.
Yes.
We
Hi.
also have Jose Luis saying, I think of ghosts and vampires when I think of New Orleans.
Me too.
And we have Rihanna Muhammad saying, hi from India. Are vampires really there in New Orleans? Where do
People
they
think
live?
so.
Okay, people from the American Corner in Twisty are watching us today and they want to know if you speak French.
Oh, I don't speak French, but outside of New Orleans in what we call Cajun country, many people still speak French today, or they speak a mixture of French and English. And if you're driving through these small communities outside of New Orleans, you usually hear the radio is in French.
Also, the people who are watching us from American Corner are saying that they're originally from Cincinnati, just like you.
Hey, me too.
Okay, well, a few more comments before we go. We have Hector saying, if you find a plastic baby in your slice of cake, this is in Mexico, you have to invite tamales and hot chocolate to everyone you ate the cake with. So very similar to what you were saying.
Better.
Yes. And Katrina, were you living in New Orleans during the Hurricane Katrina?
Yes, yes. But I evacuated. I left and I stayed with my family in Cincinnati for a month. And then I came back with no electricity or water for a long time, but my house was okay. We didn't have a problem with the house. Luckily, I was very lucky.
That's good to hear.
Mhm.
Okay, I think that's all we have time for today. We have gone a little bit over, but we were so excited to hear your stories and also to hear about delicious food. Now we're officially very, very hungry. So we want to thank you again and thank you to our audience for watching us today. If you have any more questions, please feel free to ask them in our comments box and we'll try to get them today. Thank you so much, Katrina, for sharing all this wonderful information with us about New Orleans and the food and the history. We also like to thank our audience for such a lively engagement and participation today. We hope you continue to check our resources here on our American English Facebook page and also in our YouTube channel and in our website, americanenglish.state.gov. Thank you, Katrina.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. And for those of you who are celebrating Thanksgiving, have a happy and healthy Thanksgiving. Thank you, everybody. We hope to see you again in a couple of weeks for our next session of Faces and Places across the United States. We encourage you to continue to engage with our community virtually like you have done today. Thank you, everybody. Bye, Katrina.
Bye.
Happy Thanksgiving.
You too.